I felt really like I was at a crossroads in my career. I'd been in the same organization for almost a decade. And while I love scholarships and I love students, there was only so many times I could click the buttons and run the cycle. And I think symbolically, I did take that leap on leap day. So that was a nice little way to wrap it up.
Hello and welcome to Scholarship Station, your platform to explore the scholarship field. I'm Erika Orsulak, your host. I'm with Students First Consulting. And today we're taking a look in the mirror and talking about our own organization, Students First Consulting. I'm joined by my two partners at SFC, Sarah Battersby and Julia De Silva. First, let me introduce Scholarship Station. It's a free service connecting members of the scholarship world to resources and ideas about how we can all better serve students. If you have a topic or particular issue you'd like to hear discussed, please let us know in the comments below. On screen, you'll see my contact info as well as all of our handles in all of the places. I'm Erika Orsulak, and I'm one of the founding partners of Students First Consulting. Joining me today are my two other partners. First, let me introduce our hardworking implementation expert, Sarah Battersby. Hey, Sarah.
Hello.
The third partner is our ultra organized spreadsheet queen, Julia De Silva. Hi, Julia.
Hey.
Julia, let's start with you today. Just introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. I'm Julia De Silva. I live in Durham, North Carolina. I grew up all over the South, born in Alabama, lived in Tennessee, now live in North Carolina, spent a lot of time in other southern states. I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for undergrad and both of my master's degrees in social work and public administration. So go Heels. And then I went to work at a local community foundation, which is where I got involved in scholarships, which maybe we'll talk about a little later, but worked with lots of nonprofits along the way, really passionate about that work. I have two dogs, Bo and Myrtle. If you've ever been in a meeting with me, maybe you've seen them. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Did I miss anything, Erica?
I don't think so. We'll dig into some of that a little bit later, but I think that's a great summary. Sarah, you and Julia worked together in the Research Triangle in North Carolina. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What should people know about you?
Yeah, so I also live in the Triangle region of North Carolina. I am a native North Carolinian, so I was born and raised on the coast of North Carolina, and have been here all my life except for a very brief stint in Florida. I worked mostly in higher ed, so I have my master's in social work. Right after grad school, I became a career counselor to undergrad students and then worked in graduate education as well in student affairs, admissions, and financial aid. And then transitioned out to work at a community foundation. I loved working with students, but really missed being in the community. So this was a great opportunity to go back to a community-based organization, but work with scholarships.
I love it. I'm Erica. I live outside of Athens, Georgia, on a little homestead with a big garden and a bunch of chickens and cats. I'm originally from the Midwest. I grew up in a really small farming community. I went to high school where the graduating class size was 52. I was the first in my family to go to college. I then I couldn't escape soon enough from there, but I, of course, have fond memories now of having grown up there. I lived in lots of different places from around the States and abroad. My career has always been in philanthropy since right out of college, and I stumbled into scholarships about 13 years ago and just was smitten. I think like Sarah and Julia were too. So worked in-house at a number of scholarship providing organizations and then as a consultant. And then we started SFC a couple of years ago. So it's been a great ride. Excited to be on it with Sarah and Julia. Sarah, you mentioned something I want to go back to. You talked about some of that earlier work in your career in higher education. Can you talk a little bit about how that informs the work that we do today at SFC?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was really fortunate in that I got to work with a huge range of students, all the way from freshmen to third year law students, and even after. So I managed a program for loan repayment for law school grads as well, and got to experience a lot of different student types and student backgrounds, and really get to know them really well. In career counseling, I was meeting one on one with students. When I was at the law school, I managed all the student groups, so I had a lot of constant student contact and getting to hear from them the things they were going through, the things they went through to get to that point in their education, was always really inspirational. And I think at the time, especially, 10, 15 years ago, hating on millennials was really a popular pastime, it seemed like. And that was really contrasted with the students that I worked and met every day, that they were really hardworking, really cared about the work that they were doing, whether they were, a major in English or pursuing a law degree. And I think that really informed where I went from there, seeing students as whole people who, in many or perhaps most cases, have been through a lot of really challenging things to get where they are, and really appreciating all the work that they do.
Everyone on our team is such a champion for students, Sarah. I love hearing the individual stories that have undergirded that for a long time. Julia, can you talk a little bit about this idea of scholarships being more than just money? I know you've said things before that they can really act as a signal to students that we care about them, that we believe in their potential.
Absolutely. I part of my work that I do with so many of our clients is um, developing, the applications and the rubrics and things. And I always try to remind folks to like tell students that you're a human, right? Don't be so robotic in like your descriptions and instructions, because they want to know that there is a human that they can contact, right? And so many of our friends in this field do such an excellent job with that. And I think that really speaks to what else comes with scholarship funds outside of just money, right? It's this support system. Even if you're not offering wraparound services, you are still a person that that student can contact. There's a donor behind that money that, believes in the possibility of students. I have one student in mind that I think about pretty regularly. This student received a scholarship from a donor who wanted to specifically support immigrant students and refugee students and undocumented students. And this particular student wanted to go into nursing. And because of their status, there's kind of a roadblock with getting through the background checks in order to receive that. And that donor held that scholarship for that student for, I think, maybe 8 or so years, just waiting for that student to be able to do that and keep offering them kind of grace semester because they had this dream, they were working towards it, taking different classes, finding, working with lawyers on their status and all of these different opportunities, navigating all these different resources. But that donor was very consistently saying, I'm going to support you and I'm going to keep this here because I believe in your success. And I think that, you know, beyond knowing that there was money waiting for them to kind of get through that final round to achieve that goal of becoming a nurse, it was that donor saying, like, I believe in your success. I believe in your possibility. I believe in your intelligence. I believe in your resilience in kind of navigating this situation. But that to me is like one of the most kind of telling ways, just this idea that you have people in your corner.
Thank you for joining us at Scholarship Station. If you find this episode useful, inspiring, helpful, or motivational, please subscribe, like, and maybe even leave us a review. We love having you with us. We're getting ready to celebrate a birthday here at SFC. For 3 years, we've been working to build our business and make a positive impact with student-focused scholarship consulting. First, let me congratulate all of us. Good job, everyone. Big pats on the
Woohoo!
back. Yeah. It's been a really fun ride with both of you. I'll just mention a little bit about my wanting to start the company. it really, in large part, was driven with by the opportunity to work with both of you in earnest. I think we've long become, we became fast scholarship friends, and we're always crossing paths over what I think are still best practices, great innovations, really student focused opportunities that those in our industry can pursue. And so, for me, it was a combination of, oh my gosh, I get to work with my scholarship friends and we get to help other people do their work even better. It seemed like something that I couldn't pass up. And I'm so happy that we've done it. I'm so proud of us. And the honestly, the biggest thrill is hearing from our clients, those in the industry who have learned things from us, who have made changes because of the work that we're doing, and most importantly, are having huge impacts on their teams, their donors, their volunteers, but most importantly, students. So, I mean, the outcomes have been absolutely incredible. And I think we're just poised for so much more of that. And I wanted to ask each of you. So, Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about taking the leap to start SFC?
Yeah, and I think symbolically I did take that leap on leap day, so that was a nice little way to wrap it up. But I felt really like I was at a crossroads in my career. I'd been in the same organization for almost a decade, and while I love scholarships and I love students, there was only so many times I could click the buttons and run the cycle, and was really hitting a roadblock of what was next. I didn't really want to go back into higher ed. Again, I love students, but I didn't miss the politics and structure of actual colleges, and that's universally, not to call out anyone in particular. But this opportunity came up and it was really exciting. It was a lot of what I was already doing, talking to people all the time that I met through, the National Scholarship Providers Association or the North Carolina Grantmakers Association, that I really enjoyed. And this was a way to continue that work, to stay connected with students, but to really grow into what's next. And I think that it has certainly been not something I saw coming. I did not ever think that I would launch myself into entrepreneurship, but it's been really great to work with providers of all different types, from all different backgrounds across the whole country. And, my whole career has been basically in a very small region of North Carolina. So it's been nice to branch out. And while this summer I did get a crash course in Texas financial aid, I really do love learning new things. And so this has been a great way to keep that going.
And how about you, Julia?
Oh, and I tell Sarah and Erica this all the time, but I would follow them off a cliff. So, so when we, had this idea, I was really trying to think back. We had some early conversations and we got together to talk about the possibility, and it just felt so much more exciting than finding another job, to be honest. And so it also, similarly to Sarah, felt like the right next step. I think we also have shared values and aspirations for this field and for students. Related to those best practices, related to what we can accomplish when we work together, really thinking outside the box. What are some other opportunities? So it felt really fun to have the space to create something, and to keep supporting all of our friends in the industry.
And Sarah, you work closely with a lot of our clients, especially on nuts and bolts of their programs, from strategy all the way to the day to day. Are you often hearing stories and seeing data about the impact that they're having on students' lives?
And I think it's interesting that often I find that our clients believe that they're not having an impact, but that's often because they are only tracking things like graduation rates, which are ultimately quite hard to track if you don't know how to use the National Student Clearinghouse or have the time to. So talking with them about what the other impacts could be that they may be having, and seeing impact in a different way. I think they often are having a great impact, but maybe they don't track students to graduation, or maybe they're having they have a one-time award and they're not considering perhaps that scholarship, that one-time scholarship, meant that that student took out less loans for a year, that they had to work only one job or no jobs and could focus on school instead of taking on debt. And so I think helping them reframe the impact they're having and just think about the way that they are impacting students even in potentially small or large ways has been great.
And I think a lot of it goes back to what Julia said about believing in students. I remember in my first scholarship job, I remember students responding to surveys and saying that yeah, the money's great, and even better was that people believed in me. So it's just, it continues to thrill me that we get to work in this industry because there's just so much potential for impact. Julia, let me ask you, so you are a first generation American, you grew up moving around the US, as you said. How has that influenced the work that you do?
That's a great question, Erica. I, as you said, I'm, a daughter of immigrants. And while I'm not a first generation college student, my sisters and I, we're the first in our family to navigate the American college system, which, as many of you know, is a really unique and involved system. My parents have, a lot of education, and I had, sisters who kind of went before me and helped me in this journey. And it was still a really complicated system to navigate, both getting to college and paying for college and navigating the opportunities at college. Um, and so, even with all of those resources, as somebody who is pretty privileged in my experience, was difficult. And so, every time you kind of add a layer of one of those pieces missing, one of those supports missing, it makes it even more difficult to navigate. And I think that's something that we as scholarship providers and in this field can think more about is like, how do we continue to make this easier? How do we make it easier to get information to students for their families? Because there are families who want to support them, but they don't have the time, they don't have the language skills, they don't know where to look. And so, how can we make getting information easier? How can we make it easier to apply for scholarships, to keep them for multiple years, right? So they don't have to keep applying. Like, where are all the little places that we can continue removing barriers? It just motivates me to keep thinking about what are the blind spots that I have, what are the blind spots that we all have, because it's been a minute since all of us were in school, and so we all have blind spots about what the reality is for students and what their families are also facing. So it just motivates me to keep thinking about people's unique experiences and how we can keep removing those obstacles for them.
Julia and Sarah, thank you so much for doing this with me today. It is a pleasure to be on this journey with you, and I'm really happy and proud of what we've accomplished. I'm also excited that we have a lot on the horizon. I think there's a ton that we've got in the near future, other opportunities to serve the industry and the students that scholarship providers serve. I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to doing that with both of you.
Ditto.
Same.
I also want to thank everyone for being in the audience today. Thanks for joining us on this excursion. It's always a joy to have you on board. Remember to like and subscribe to Scholarship Station. It's your platform to explore the world of scholarships. We'll see you again soon.